Good evening, welcome everyone to another Python video wherein we will see and understand a problem statement. Then we will see what are the solution method to solve the given problem, and then we will see the Python implementation of the problem. So we have been given a list that contains both positive and negative integers. What we have to do is to find out the two elements from the list that has their summation value closest to 0. So to further enumerate the problem statement, I have given two test cases. As you can see, the first test case, the sample output is -5 and 6, because these are the two elements that is giving us the output of 1, which is closest to 0. Now you can pick and choose any other two elements, but you will see that the resultant summation value is greater than 1. So here -5 and 6 is the pair of element. Again, in test case 2, you can see it for yourself. The resultant value is -38 and 34, because these are the two values that is giving us the closest sum value to 0. Now the first approach that we will be using is the brute force approach. So first, here what we will do is that we will be initializing a variable, and then we will assign the length of the number of elements present in that list as its value. Second, we will be initializing closest sum, a variable, and we will be assigning the float inf as its value. So basically here what we are doing is that we are setting the value as positive infinity, as it will act as an unbounded upper value for comparison. This is mainly useful for finding lowest values, because here we have to do the same thing. What we need to do, we need to find the two elements that has the lowest sum value or the closest sum value to 0, and we are initializing here closest pair, a variable that will keep track of the pair which pair of element is giving me the closest sum value. Now then we will write a for loop. We will be taking two index variable I and j, and then we will start traversing the list from the left hand side. Now for each pair of elements in the given index position, we will be calculating the sum of those elements, and we will be storing it in the variable called current sum. Now we will compare if the absolute value of the current sum variable is less than the absolute value of the closest sum. Now if it is so, we will update the value of the closest sum with the value of the current sum. Now once we do that, we get the two elements that is giving me the summation value closest to 0, and then we will print the closest pair. Now although this approach is giving me the correct result, but it has a time complexity of O(n)², because here we are running two for loops. This will give the resultant value in no time, or the output in no time for a list which is small, but for a large list it will be quite slow and it will take much time. So we will see what are the efficient approaches we have. We have optimized method. We can also solve the problem using this. So let us just see what this says. So optimized method, as the name suggests, is that we are optimizing our solution. We are curtailing the solution as per to my given problem statement, rather than exhausting all possible permutation and combination and reaching the final solution. So what we will do is that the input list is given. So first we will sort the list, because many a times the given list may be sorted, or many a times it may not be sorted. So we will use the sort function, and we will sort the list. Then we will be initializing two pointers, and we will place one pointer at the left hand side at the beginning of the list and on the left hand side, and the second pointer towards the right hand of the sorted list. Done. Then we will be initializing variables to store the closest sum and the pair of elements. Like again, we will be assigning float inf to the closest sum variable, okay, and the closest pair variable to keep the track of which pair of element is giving me the closest sum. Now while the left pointer is less than the right pointer, the index position at where the left and the right pointer is pointing respectively, if that element at the left pointer is less than the right pointer, then we will calculate the sum of the elements at the current left and right pointers of those two elements where my left and right pointers are indicating at that particular point of time. Now if that summation, if the absolute value of that sum is smaller than the absolute value of the closest sum, again we will update the value of the closest sum with the value of the current sum, and again the pair of elements. So here we will use an if statement. Like if my sum is positive, I have to check, right, if my sum is positive. So if my sum is positive, we will move the right pointer towards the left side of the list. So we will be moving from higher to smaller values. If the sum is negative, then we will move the left pointer towards the right hand side. So towards from my lower values towards my higher set of values. Again, if my summation is neither this or that, means neither positive or negative, that means it is 0. Now if it is 0, that means what? The job is done. We have found the pair that we needed. That means the pair which is giving us the closest sum to 0. So at this point of time we can break off the loop, break out of the loop, and we can print the closest pair, the value that is containing in the closest pair. Basically we are returning the pair of elements that resulted in that closest sum. So now going forward we will see the Python implementation of both the brute force approach and the optimized method. So first the brute force method. Here we are defining a function and then we are initializing a variable n, and we are taking the length of the list nums as its value. We are initializing closest sum variable and taking float inf as the input. We are initializing closest pair variable and taking the input as none. Now we are running two for loop, one for index position for first element index variable I, second element index variable j. Index variable in the range of n, within the range of the length of the list, and for the second element j for the range of I plus 1 comma n. Why I plus 1? Because if my ith index variable is pointing to the, let's say, index number 0, then of course my j will be the next one. So I plus 1, the next element or present in the next index position of that list, comma n within that length of the list. Now I will initialize a variable called current sum, and right at that point of time where the index variable I and j is pointing in the list, I'll do the summation of those two elements. Now we will check if the absolute value of this variable current sum is less than the absolute value of the closest sum. If it is so, then I will update the value of the closest sum variable with the current sum value, and once we do that, we also find our closest pair and we print the element that is present in index position I and j of that list nums, and then we will return the closest pair. So I have taken an example over here. You can see that the same example that is given in the test case 1, here the output is 6 and minus 5. Next we will see the optimized method approach, wherein again we are defining the function, and first what we are doing is that we are sorting the given list using the sort function. Second, we are initializing two pointers left by the name of left and right. Left pointer towards the left end of the list, so index position 0, right towards the right hand side of the list at the last index position. So here right is containing the value len of nums minus 1. Why? Because in a list we know that if a list contains 5 elements, so the length of the list is 5, but the indexing starts from 0 to and it goes on to 4. So it's, if length is 5, so it's 5 minus 1, 4. So which will give me the last index position. So where my right pointer will indicate. So the closest sum will be having the float infinity value. Closest pair will be having the value of none. Now we will be running a while loop. So while we will check the left pointer is less than the right pointer, we will calculate the sum of the elements at the current left and the right pointers. We did that. Now we will put an if statement. So now if my absolute value of this sum, of the current sum that we are having, is lesser than the absolute value of the closest sum that we have taken, if yes, then we will update the value of the closest sum with the value of the current sum. And while we do that, we will again print the element, two elements that is resulting in the same. Now we will check if the current sum value is positive, that which is greater than 0. If it is so, then we will be decrementing our left pointer, matlab like we will be moving from the right hand side of the list to the left hand side of the list. So it is right equals to right minus 1. Else if our current sum value is less than 0, which is negative, what we will do? We will move the left pointer from the left hand side of the list to the right hand side of the list, like we are traversing from lesser values to higher value in the list. So left equals to left plus 1. If neither positive nor negative, so else it is 0, the summation is 0. In that case, we are breaking off the list of the loop, of the loop, and then we are returning the closest pair. So here the example, we have taken a different list over here. You see that the resultant pair is minus 80 and 85 because it is giving us the closest sum value to 0. I hope you guys have understood what I have tried to explain over here. If you like the video, please enjoy the video. Thank you.